He swept the marble floors every morning, quiet, unnoticed, invisible. To most students, he was just the janitor. But one woman's cruel laugh would soon uncover a truth that would shake the entire university. What she thought was mockery turned into a moment of reckoning, one that exposed privilege, prejudice, and everything this institution claimed to stand for. Because sometimes, the man you look down on is standing far above you, in ways you could never imagine. And when the truth came out, no one could believe who he really was. Erickson had worked at Westbridge University for nearly 3 years. Mopping floors and polishing hallways most people walked through without ever noticing him. Every morning before dawn, he'd unlock the same doors, straighten the same chairs, and listen to the same echo of student laughter fading through the corridors. To them, he was just another uniform, a background figure in their world of ambition and privilege. But Erickson wasn't bitter. He took quiet pride in his work, in keeping the grand lecture halls shining, in making sure the place looked like the legacy it claimed to be. He'd grown up hearing stories about this university, how it was founded on equality, opportunity, and moral values. Funny, he thought sometimes, how easily those words faded when people looked at him. He moved quietly, observed silently, and spoke little. His eyes had seen more of the school's truth than any professor's lecture ever could. The casual glances, the whispered comments, the way students would drop trash and walk away, knowing he'd pick it up. Still, Erickson carried himself with a calm dignity. There was a softness in his movements, a strength that didn't need to be loud. He wasn't there for attention. He had his reasons, ones no one would have ever guessed. That morning started like every other. The sky was gray, the halls quiet, but something was different. A guest lecture, a crowd of new faces, and a young woman with a name that carried weight on campus. Her laughter echoed across the hallway as she pointed at him, a moment meant to humiliate, but destined to reveal far more than she ever intended. Because Erickson wasn't just anyone, and that day, the truth would finally walk out of the shadows. That afternoon, the university buzzed with excitement. A prestigious event was scheduled, the unveiling of the new scholarship wing, funded by the founder's family. Students and faculty gathered in the grand lobby, dressed in their best, cameras flashing, laughter echoing through the hall. Erickson worked quietly at the back, ensuring everything was spotless before the ceremony began. As he polished the brass railing, a young woman's laughter cut through the crowd, sharp, dismissive, and cruel. Her name was Madeline Cole, one of the most recognized faces on campus, a top student, daughter of a powerful donor. She was surrounded by her friends, the kind of group that never noticed who stood behind their reflection. "Look at him," she whispered loudly, smirking as her eyes followed Erickson's every move. "Cleaning up while we're here, making history." The group burst into laughter. Someone took out a phone, pretending to record. To them, it was harmless, a joke, a moment of superiority. But to Erickson, it was a reminder that some people still measured worth by appearances. He didn't react. He'd faced worse. The humiliation didn't show on his face, but it burned quietly inside him. What they didn't know was that he wasn't just there to clean. He was invited to stay for the ceremony. His name was on the guest list, though no one had noticed. Not yet. As the dean approached the podium, the crowd hushed. Cameras flashed. Madeline and her friends stood near the front, still smirking, still unaware of the storm quietly building behind them. The dean began his speech, thanking donors and alumni, speaking proudly of the founder's vision for equality and progress. Erickson listened from the side, the irony not lost on him. Then the moment came. "Before we continue," the dean said, adjusting his glasses, "I'd like to take a moment to recognize a very special guest with us today." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Madeline tilted her head, curious. The dean continued, his voice filled with reverence. someone who carries the legacy of Westbridge University in his very name. A man who embodies the values this institution was built upon. Please welcome Erickson Westbridge, grandson of the university's founder. The room fell silent. Every whisper vanished. Madeline's laughter froze mid-smile. The janitor she had mocked was now walking toward the stage, not in uniform, but in quiet dignity. Gasps rippled through the audience as Erickson removed his gloves and stepped into the light. The dean extended a hand, the crowd erupted in applause, and Madeline's face turned pale. But Erickson didn't gloat. He didn't even look at her. He simply stood tall, thanking the crowd with a calm nod. For him, this wasn't revenge. It was revelation. Still, beneath the applause, tension lingered. Madeline's humiliation was public, but the question remained. How would she react now that the man she mocked held the name that built everything around her? Because the real lesson wasn't in who Erickson was. It was in how quickly everyone had decided who they thought he wasn't. And that truth, once seen, couldn't be unseen. The applause faded, leaving behind a heavy, breathless silence. Madeline stood frozen, her mind struggling to catch up with what she had just heard. The man she had mocked, the man she had turned into a joke, was now being honored as the living legacy of everything her family's money could never buy. Integrity, heritage, and quiet power. Cameras turned toward Erickson as he approached the podium. His expression was calm, but behind that stillness was a storm years in the making. He looked out over the crowd, the same faces that had overlooked him every day, and began to speak. "I've walked these halls long before anyone here knew my name," he said slowly, his voice steady, carrying across the room. "And every day I saw more than dust on the floors. I saw how people look at you when they think you don't matter." Every word landed like thunder. Madeline's eyes welled up, not from sympathy but shame. Around her the whispers began. Those who had laughed with her now turned their eyes away. No one wanted to be seen as the one who had joined in. Erickson paused, scanning the crowd. "My grandfather built this university to give people opportunity," he continued. "But somewhere along the way, some forgot what that meant. Titles and wealth became worth more than decency." The dean bowed his head. Even he couldn't meet Erickson's eyes. Then came the final blow. Not from anger, but from grace. "Respect," Erickson said, his voice softening, "should never depend on who you think someone is. Because you never really know who stands in front of you until it's too late." The hall erupted in stunned silence. And in that silence, the lesson hit harder than any speech could. When the ceremony ended, the crowd didn't rush to leave. They lingered, uneasy, reflective, caught between admiration and guilt. Madeline stayed rooted to her spot, the sound of her own laughter replaying in her mind like an echo she couldn't silence. The man she'd mocked had walked away with grace, not anger, and somehow that made her shame feel even heavier. Later that day, a video of the event surfaced online. The laughter, the reveal, the speech. Within hours, it spread across social media, sparking debates about respect, prejudice, and the quiet ways people judge others. The world saw not just a powerful story, but a mirror. One that reflected their own assumptions. For Erickson, life didn't change overnight. He still came to campus early, still walked the same halls. But now, people saw him differently. They greeted him. They smiled. Yet he knew that true change wasn't in how they treated him. It was in what they learned from the moment they failed to. A week later, Madeline found him cleaning a corridor. Her voice trembled as she said, "I'm sorry." Erickson nodded, offering the same calm smile he always had. "Just remember," he said gently, "respect isn't earned by titles. It's shown by character." That simple sentence traveled further than any lecture ever could. Professors quoted it. Students shared it. It became part of the university's new mission statement. A reminder carved into the walls Erickson had once polished in silence. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons aren't taught in classrooms. They're learned in moments of humility, when truth strips away privilege and leaves only humanity. And as the years passed, one story kept echoing across generations. The day a woman's laughter turned into realization, and a man once overlooked reminded the world of what respect truly means. The question is, how many people do we still look down on every day, never realizing who they might truly be? Don't miss more powerful real-life stories. Hit subscribe now.